Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Henry Kaminski here from UniqueDesignz.net, and we got coming to you another episode of the Brand Doctor Podcast, but this time we have a very special guest. Let me introduce to you Bianca from Foxley. Welcome to today's episode, Bianca. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
And I hear a little bit of an accent, so tell everybody where you're from.
I'm currently sitting in freezing cold Melbourne, Australia.
I forgot because I was just going to say, we're celebrating July. It's like 80 degrees outside. We're loving it. So the reason why I asked Bianca to come to an episode of the Brand Doctor Podcast, because she does something very similar to what I do, but she has a very interesting backstory that it's almost spooky how similar it is to mine. And I had to have her on the show because I wanted all of you guys to really hear another person's perspective, another person's journey, another person's story, because we do have quite a bit of creative people that listen to this podcast. And so I wanted to talk the lingo with someone else that gets it. And whatever value that's going to transpire out of this conversation today, I want you to take action on it. I just don't want you to listen to her and I and say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and then never act upon it. So, real quick, Bianca, let's talk about question number one. So give us a little bit of that backstory on how you got created. And I want to piggyback on top of that, and I want you to share with us your worst entrepreneurial moment.
Right. Well, I have some stories. I started my first business when I was about 11. So I'm a prolific creator. And I used to make all these crafty things. I had so much excess stuff, so I thought I'd just sell it at the Sunday market. And I got a real taste for entrepreneurism there, where I could make money from the things that I created. My second real business I started when I was about 24 with a graphic design agency. And from there, I started a web company, Web123, a few years later, because I was really jack of the web industry and how the little guys were getting screwed. In that time, trying to generate leads, this is before the days of funnels, I had, coach after coach after coach looking to, fast track my business. And I had this one coach who didn't really do all that many wonders for my business, and he was hell-bent on getting me to do this 13-step sales process. And during that time, trying to adopt these cookie-cutter methods that just did not work for my design business, I ended up sending out cans of spam ham to prospects via post, trying to drum up business. I'm almost ashamed to admit it. It was one of the lowest points, I think, of my career. I ended up ending my tenure with that coach not long after that. Didn't work. Well, I picked up a few clients, but it was a very, very embarrassing time in my life.
Oh my God. So, lesson learned, guys, pick your mentors wisely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
it wasn't all bad. Sorry.
Yeah, listen, if you got a couple clients out of it, that's what's up. For sure.
Yeah, and then that led to my reseller program, which then led to me creating Foxley years later. So I guess there's always a silver lining to all of those embarrassing things we try.
Absolutely. Now, just let the audience know, how long have you been in business?
Real business, I'm coming up to 15 years, just on 15 years now.
Okay, so way over a decade. So guys, I just want you to know Bianca knows what she's talking about. So I definitely want you to listen up to her expertise and her advice and her knowledge because she's been around the block a couple times.
So failed a lot.
Right. And so I want to talk about that because obviously this is the Brand Doctor podcast. My expertise is branding, design, digital marketing, and helping people connect with their target audience and help them connect their messaging and their identities to their target audience, obviously. So I see a lot of issues going on lately when I have potential clients coming to me saying, you know, what's the next Facebook hack? You know, what's the next tactic that I could use on Instagram to help me generate more business, right? And my first thing is I take a look at their branding and I'm like, what are you doing? I think it's time that you have to take like 10 steps back for a second. And so in your opinion, Bianca, what do you think the biggest mistake entrepreneurs are making right now with their branding?
I think I agree with you. I think everybody's looking for a magic bullet, a quick fix, a 7-step process, or, you know, something that they can follow, a shortcut or something like that. And I think that they're missing, like you say, going back to 10 steps. You need to start with your why. I think like everything became clearer to me when I first started my first business. I didn't really have any clue. I just knew I wanted to help people. I knew I didn't want to have a boss telling me what to do, but I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a brand strategy. I didn't know my why. I knew there was something bigger for me out there. I knew I was going to be successful, but I didn't know what that why was. I only really discovered my true why just a couple of years ago, but since, you know, I think doing the work and understanding that, you know, real progress in any business takes at least 5 years, I believe. There's no quick fix magic formula. And starting with, you know, the fundamentals, like why are you doing this? Why have you chosen this? Who are you trying to help? Getting those branding fundamentals down pat before you start looking for the tactics, because I think a lot of people are just caught up in the next, you know, Facebook hack and sales funnel and all that kind of stuff, and they're just missing, you know, they're chasing the dollar, chasing the trophy. And that's one thing I learned, is that it is not, entrepreneurship is not about the trophy. You know, you don't play a grand final game and then talk about the trophy at the end. You talk about how you played the game. And so it's about enjoying the journey and enjoying what you do every single day, making a difference in the world.
That's awesome. So Bianca, tell us, what is your why?
My why is to help people suffer less. So whether that be, I support a lot of charities. I have my own charity for kids in Africa. We put them through school. We award scholarships. Whether it's designers in business, I'm really passionate about that. Whether it's my clients in my other business, helping them win big online, or, you know, whether it's homeless people and even myself, you know, I'm driven by, because I have had a rough past like you, trying to help myself figure it all out and help myself suffer less, but it's mainly to help others suffer less.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's so many different ways you can help, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
when you were coming up, you know, what was one of the best pieces of advice you received? Whether it be from a mentor or a friend or anybody in business?
Yeah, there's this one sign that my parents had stuck on our fridge for years, and we moved around a lot as a kid. And I just always remember this sign. It was a white sign, had red writing, and it said, "You never fail until you stop trying." Now, I didn't know that was a saying by Albert Einstein until a couple of months ago. I was giving a talk, and I researched that because that's what one of the lessons I was talking about. That has stuck with me through every single trial and tribulation along my journey. When the going gets tough and I feel like throwing it all in and nothing's working, and, you know, you get screwed over by people and everything just feels like you're just spinning your wheels at times, because that's what this journey is. I always remember that, and so long as I keep trying, I will succeed one day in whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's so important. I mean, I've been in business now a decade, this September, and it's just like I look back and I remember of all the mistakes that I made and all the poor brand positioning, things that I did. And I want to talk about that for a second, because I'm a big fan of brand positioning and brand awareness and how you position your brand. And my aha moment or my motto is the quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients. So can you talk a little bit about brand positioning? And I would love to get your take on that one line.
Sure. Well, we have invested a lot in our brand strategy. So, my wife, for example, was after an 8-hour workshop just to determine that. A lot of very, heated discussions and everything like that. So we're very clear on that we want to be a brand that is known to be bold. We practice radical candor here. We tell it how it is. We don't sugarcoat stuff. We come from a place of tough love, but we also want to empower our community. So we don't want to create a community of followers, and there's different types of models, I guess, you can adapt. We want to create leaders within our design community so that they can go off and create other leaders, and we can globally have this huge sort of ripple effect. So I think all of the kind of the brand values that we practice, the way that we talk to our community, the tools that we give them, the shortcuts, everything comes with a certain aspect of tough love and reality check. So listen, guys, here's some shortcuts, but you just need to do the work on yourself, which is, I think, 80% of the success equation is your own mindset and your own personal growth, self-awareness, and all of that. And I think that, that your brand has, it is a living thing, and it is not just an extension of you. It is also what, you're creating a movement. And so what kind of values do you want to instill in your community, and how do you want those people to share those values and attract the right type of people with the same worldview?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, when I bring up branding to my clients, it's pretty interesting because they look at me sometimes with this glazed look over their face, like they have no clue what it is. The one time I mentioned the word branding to someone, and they immediately thought of clothing. They were like, no, I'm not a clothing brand, and I'm not a clothing company. I'm like, no, dude, no. So what do you think the biggest
logo?
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing that they think of. So I'm like, so I wanted to get your perspective on this. What do you think the biggest misconception is about branding?
I think a lot of people assume that a brand is your logo, letterhead, business card. They don't understand that the brand is the perception that someone has about your company. It's that intangible feeling that you can, stir up or conjure up when someone hears your name or when someone sees a part of you or a slice of you online. It is that intangible emotion that you stir.
Right.
And I guess because it is intangible, it's very difficult for people to grasp that.
It is. No, that's totally true. And you said a couple of things. The desired perception of how you want to be seen. Then you said the big F word, which is the feeling. That is so important. I was just at a conference a couple weeks ago, I should say a couple months ago at this point, and Tony Robbins was speaking. And he started out simply by saying, people buy feelings. And he did this whole thing. He had this girl with it looked like a book bag from Target. And then there was a girl sitting up at the front with a Gucci book bag, right?
Yep.
And he asked both people why they bought their book bag of choice, right?
Yeah.
And it was such an interesting exercise to hear, the different perceptions. This one was like, it can hold all my books.
Yeah.
And the other one was like, I like the way it makes me feel. Like it was like, I want everybody to see that I have a Gucci book bag, right? Because it makes me feel whatever that is. And the good news is, and what Tony said was, there's no right or wrong answer here. There's no right or wrong answer here. So he didn't want her to feel, pretentious, and she didn't want the other one to feel, like, subpar in any way, or not being able to. They just both like different things. But it was the feeling that each one of those book bags gave to those people that was the point and the priority. And that's branding in the essence of it.
Absolutely. You don't see the 60-year-old buying the Aston Martin because it does 250 miles an hour. It's how that car makes him feel when he's driving and everyone's looking at him.
Exactly. And I'm a huge car buff. I admit it. My wife makes fun of me all the time. And I like my cars. And so she never gets it. She's like, I have no idea why you like that truck so damn much. And I'm like, listen, when I'm driving it, it makes me feel good. Leave me alone. Yeah.
And that's women that have shoes, we don't have 65 pairs of shoes if it doesn't make us feel sexy when we're going out. Yeah.
And that's the key, guys. And so that's important because I want everybody listening to understand that people are buying feelings. It's not the product. It's not the service. It's not how good you are. It's how you make that person feel. And that's the bottom line. So if you start paying attention to that, right, and take that outside perspective and say, if I was on the buying end of my product or service, how would my product or service make me feel? I struggled with that for years, Bianca, because I said I never was empathetic. Like I struggled with empathy so much in my life. I was an only child. I was raised by my father. He did a great job, but there were certain things that just didn't show up for me. So I had to learn them. And so, like, take my wife, for example. She grew up in a huge Italian family, and empathy comes to her like that because she had all of these siblings and, all of these relatives. And I'm like, I envy you, because I swear if I had that empathy prior and while I was growing my business, I'd probably be God knows where right now. But it's super important. So I want to talk about empathy for a second, and then we'll kind of round out the episode here. But explain to us how important empathy is in your business and in your branding.
Oh, I think it's absolutely critical. People can sense whether or not you're genuine and authentic. And, there's all this hoo-ha lately online about being authentic and being really, genuine and all that. But if you're trying to fake that, people are just going to know. They can sense it. And I think for me, whenever I write a piece, a blog, an email, any kind of video or launches or anything like that, if I'm having trouble saying what I want to say, I think it's because I am not channeling how someone else is feeling and what impact I can have. And if I get stuck, I actually go back to what it feels like for me in my business. And I think that's a lot of what's driving my current mission today, is because when I started my first business, I felt so isolated. I felt so alone. I was trying to reach out to different people to get help, and I just couldn't get the support. I was in a small town, so there was no I couldn't talk to my competitors. There was no kind of industry peers that I could tap into for that knowledge. And so I think I go back and sort of channel that and channel my own fears and my own hurdles and how I've overcome them and everything, and people just connect with that. But if I was doing it all just to make $1, you know, just to get rich and buy big fancy boats and houses and stuff like that, I don't think that we would have the success. And you know, it's interesting about the what you're trying to do when it comes from a place of why, and you genuinely want to help people, whatever your why is, the trophies don't matter anymore. You know, our house burnt down. We lost absolutely everything. It's quite a funny story.
She's laughing. Her house burnt down, but she's laughing about it.
Our house burnt down. We grabbed a bottle of wine on the way out. It was 2 a.m. And this is sort of, I've come to the realization that the entrepreneurism is not about the stuff, the money, the trophies and any of that. But funnily enough, a couple of months later, our house burnt down and we did actually lose everything that we owned. All we had was the clothes on our back and a bottle of red wine that we grabbed on the way out. And we stood out the front of the house watching it burn down, almost laughing. We were smiling because we just felt so free that we kind of became completely detached from our materialistic self, and all we had was just ourself, our true self, and that's it. And from that day on, I think it's brought a completely different flavor to what we're doing in our businesses. We've got a lot more passion to have a lot more empathy for other people that are on their journey, and I think you can't really be really, really successful without it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I can tell you're a big Simon Sinek fan. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his as well, and I'm a firm believer that people will buy your why before they buy your product or service. And that's why I'm a big proponent out there on Instagram and Facebook, literally every single day, telling people to don't be afraid to show vulnerability, you know, don't be afraid to show who you truly are, because if you try to mask all of that just to appease people or to impress people, you're immediately drawing the wrong crowd.
Totally.
So listen to what Bianca's saying. Like, just be yourself. Don't be afraid to share your why. There's nothing to be afraid of. Listen, the people that don't agree with it, you're not going to do business, and you probably don't want to do business with them anyway. And the folks that do resonate with your why are 99.9% of the time going to be more like you. And I don't know about you, Bianca, but I love working with my client roster nowadays because I feel like I'm finally attracting the right client, right? And it's just, I have 3-4 strategy calls a day at this point. And instead of going, oh, not another one, it's like I can't wait to get on that call because I'm working with people that are very similar in value as me, and it goes a long way. And not only are they going to benefit, but my work is going to come out better, and it's just going to be a win-win for everybody. So,
absolutely.
To wrap this episode up, what would be one big piece of advice that you can leave either a entrepreneur that's just starting out, or someone like yourself who's been in the game for a while and is looking to just make all the right moves, right, to take their business to the next level? What piece of advice could you give them?
I would say don't sweat the small stuff. Just get in and just start. Do the work. Like if anything, master that imposter syndrome, the perfectionism, the inner critic, that kind of the inner demons that hold you back from putting yourself out there. Progress is better than perfection, and be patient with it. But just do the work, and not just do the work, but do the work and put it out there. There's a great book called, I think it's called Die Empty by maybe Todd Henry. And he talks about, putting your best work out, or putting work out there every day, because most of the best ideas are in the graveyard, because they've died along with people, because they are always waiting for the perfect time, or when they have the courage, or when they have the confidence, or when they have so many followers or so many fans, then they'll be ready. Just start now, and don't, I guess probably put 80% of your energy into mastering your mindset and your inner critic, and potentially channeling your inner mentor more often, and then you'll watch all of the doors open for you.
That's awesome. Bianca, thank you so much for taking these 30 minutes out of your day to share your expertise and your values and your courage and your passion with our audience today. Guys, Bianca Bart from Foxley. Give us a URL or some social media handles where if they want to get to know Bianca a little bit more, where can they go?
Sure, you can catch me at foxley.com, or I'm on Twitter as Bianca Board. And thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. All right, guys, there is another episode in the books for the Brand Doctor podcast. I will check you on another episode. Please do me one favor. Don't just listen to what we were saying today. Actually do it. Take action. Like Bianca said, do the work and watch what happens as a result. So I'll catch you on another episode, guys. Take care.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesigns.net.